That's how I get everything started. Hey again, everybody, and welcome into Talking Tuscaloosa. Luke Robinson along with Jimmy Stein, as always. Jimmy, how are you today?
Good.
You? Okay, good. You sound chipper.
Because I'm thankful to be talking about this and not the work stuff I've been talking about for only about 9 hours, and it only feels like 16.
Okay, I dig it. Just really quickly, we should remind everybody that when I asked Jimmy how's he doing today, it is not some bullshit colloquial start to this whole thing. It's
you're hoping I answer.
Jimmy and I talk about once a week when we do this podcast. We do no preparation for this.
They can tell.
I was going to say, I probably goes without saying, in the Department of Redundancy department, we don't prepare for this. But as always, though, we are brought to you by Pringles. Pringles, the chip that's harder to beat than a flaccid wang.
Holy crap. We come right out of the gate, Rated R this week.
Gate, baby. That's it. Hey, look, it's not my slogan. It's Pringles, man. I'm just reading what they send me.
Pringles.
Okay.
Pringles. We're so good at what we do. We do not sponsor that Talking Tuscaloosa bullshit. We don't actually sponsor them.
Pringles. We're better than that three-bosomed woman in Total Recall. Actually, you're not. Nothing's better than the three-bosomed woman in Total Recall. Nothing.
That's right. Who's better than the man with two brains?
No, listen. Let me tell you what.
Was it the man with two brains?
There was
the man with two brains. The
man with two brains was Steve Martin. Yeah. Yep. If the man with two brains met the woman with three boobs, the man would have no brains. It doesn't matter how many brains you bring to the table against three bosoms. It's not going to work out for the dude with however many brains he's got. And if NASA knows somehow that traveling to Mars will lead to women growing a third bosom, they ought to be working on this around the clock. I don't even know if that's an acceptable joke anymore. I don't even know, but whatever.
It's not the Me Too movement. It's the Me 3 movement.
That's not hashtag Me 3. I dig it.
Me 3.
Okay, so Alabama played Arkansas State this weekend.
We did. That was the Christians that were fed to the lions.
God, I mean, look, we've been clubbing baby seals for 11, 12 years now. But this particular year feels like we're not clubbing the baby seals anymore. We're executing them gangland style.
Well, it's just different. I mean, that's the thing. I think that's a great start to my main point of the day is this year, it just feels different. I don't think the outcome is going to be any different in terms of, do we win most weeks? Are we in the national championship race? Or do we win the SEC West? Do we win in Atlanta? Do we go to the playoff? I don't think any of that's going to be too different. But what is going to be different is, for instance, the scores of the games. I think we have been routinely beating everyone to death, something like 35-7. Something like that has been the score most weeks. And this year, we're going to be beating teams most weeks something like 50-20. Yeah. I mean, the wins, and that's what most weeks it's going to look like, because all of a sudden, partly by design, partly by luck, partly by good luck, partly by bad luck, all of a sudden, what we're really, really good at is offense. And what we're good enough at to win is defense. But this is not your daddy's 2011 Alabama Crimson Tide.
And it's not even your daddy's 2011 college football season, because the offenses now are also evolved. I think giving up an average of, 18, 20 points is the equal to giving up 7 to 10 points 10 years ago.
I agree with that largely. Largely, that is true. Largely, that's true. And people are just going to have to get used to how this looks. Giving up, I know we've given a lot of yards, and I think total defense, we're something like 49th. That's a silly stat because who would look at that stat just 2 weeks into a season? But I bet in previous seasons we were never 49th, even after game 1, after game 2.
Yeah.
But some of it is just a product of having big leads. Our players may play like cyborgs, but they are human beings. And when we're scoring touchdowns on every offensive possession, it's easier for the defense to go, well, you know what, we're going to give up this play here and this play. I mean, it's just easy to lack perfect intensity when the offense is providing the cushion and the wins and relieving the pressure on the defense not to give up anything at all. And that is not to say that we're making excuses for the defense. I'm not doing that, nor am I taking the position that the defense isn't good. I think the defense can be really good. I think the problem is when you add a bunch of factors up, like, for instance, we're not deep. So it's going to be a problem for us when the offense that we're playing against gets 60, 70, 80 snaps, and we have to play too much of the game with the twos. It's a problem for us this year. I think, secondly, getting those big leads on offense, that's going to be a problem for us because the defense, the defense will be out there too many snaps because we've got a big lead and there's less intensity. Here's another thing. And boy, you talk about first world Bama problems, Luke. I think we score too fast. And there's nothing to do about that. There's nothing we even want to change or even hint that we want to change. It's just a fact that we have to deal with is we have a quarterback that can score on any snap. Any snap can produce a long distance score. Any running back like Damian or Najee or Josh or Brian can take off 65 yards and score. So we're scoring fast. It puts the defense on the field fast, and we don't have the depth. And you add all of that up, Luke, and we've been giving up 8, 9, 10 points for a decade. I think this year we're going to be giving up 18, 19, 20 points. But that's okay because Tua and company are out there hanging half 100 on everybody we play.
No, that's true. And not only that, the other reason, the SEC quarterbacks are crazy good this year. Yes. We also opened up with Louisville, who is coached by Bobby Petrino, who's he's an offensive genius. He's a terrible adulterer, but he's a great offensive genius. Then there's we play Arkansas State.
They're good on offense.
They're probably, they might be better than Louisville, and they pass the ball all over the place. And so this week we play. I was looking over some stats just for the hell of it. Tua is, for all his accolades, and they're all warranted. He's awesome. We don't need to spend a shitload of time going over how awesome Tua is. We can, but we don't have to. He's only 25 of 35 with 4 TDs and 455 yards. His completion percentage is off the charts. His quarterback rating's off the charts. It's all great. Jordan Ta'amu for Ole Miss is 45 of 65. He's completed 10 more passes than Tua's attempted. Now, and he's got 784 yards. Now, they both have he has 7 TDs and Tua has 6 TDs. But that's what I'm saying. People are going to freak out a little bit this week because Ole Miss is probably going to put 21, 24 points on the board and be like, oh, my God, Alabama's defense, there's a weakness, blah, blah, blah. If you've got Jordan Ta'amu slinging the ball every time, just like I thought all summer, and you're throwing it to Metcalf and A.J. Brown, you're going to have a shitload of yards. The problem is they couldn't stop Whoopi Goldberg from putting on a Make America Great Again hat. They're not very good on defense.
How about this? I know this will be shocking, and who knows, as everybody knows, I'm wrong all the time. But I would bet you, Luke, and again, some of this is the schedule and who plays who. But at the end of 2018, I'll just ask you, because you'll know from my question what my answer is. But at the end of 2018, when we pull up NCAA total defense in 2018, who is last between Ole Miss, Louisville, and Arkansas State?
Who is last in terms of record?
No, total defense.
Oh, total defense. Ooh, it's going to be Ole Miss.
Yeah. Louisville, Arkansas State. I think it's Ole Miss.
I think it's Ole Miss by a long ways, too.
Partly because they have to play 8 SEC teams.
No, that are going to rack up. The reason. And, well, they've already been a terrible defense against the Salukis. I mean,
that's right. So what is like Missouri going to do them? Although I don't think they play Missouri, so probably nothing. But my point is, they might give up 500 yards to Missouri, and they don't even play Missouri. So Ole Miss is one of the worst defensive teams in the country, and we should score literally at will against them. Now, conversely, I would tell you, total offense, I'm not so sure Ole Miss isn't the best team we play in 2018 in the regular season. Maybe we'll play somebody like Oklahoma in the playoff that might rank higher. But I'm just telling you, I think Ole Miss total offense, we're talking about maybe the best offense we'll play all year. So it all adds up to a weekend, Luke, where it will be a points aplenty, point a palooza, a point orgy in Oxford. It's going to be points, and more points, and it's going to look like what the entire Mike Price era would have looked like at Alabama. This is it. This Saturday will be a microcosm of what the Mike Price era would have looked like at Alabama if it had lasted longer than an A-Day.
Hey, man, if there's anything Mike Price could do, it was score.
Yeah.
It on and off the field, baby. So,
somewhat.
Hey, look,
you want to call that scoring?
Hey, let me say this, man. We all know when an overweight octogenarian walks in with a members only jacket 2 sizes too small, you know he's going to be throwing it down.
In retrospect, it's still the most. I mean, I guess we don't need to rehash it, but every time this comes up, it's still. I know I lived through it. And it's still. But how is the head football coach at Alabama just waltzing into a place like that?
I mean,
and it not register with him for one iota that I can't do this. I know I want to do this, but I can't do this. The coach at Alabama cannot do this.
Pat Dye said it best. Hindsight is 50-50, but when you look back and you think, and I remember very vividly Mike Dubose getting up to do that press conference in like a shirt that was too small for him, and his gut was hanging out, and he sounded more like kind of a hillbilly who won the lottery more than a football. You know what I'm saying? And then Mike Price gets off the plane, and like all the cameras are there, and he's in that fat guy in little coat routine, and and why didn't we pick up on this shit then? Why didn't we just know it then? Like,
because you rationalize. That's what we human beings, we rationalize. We want to believe, so we find a way to believe.
Oh, dude, it was brutal. But anyway, okay. So
you know who Mike Price is? Because Burt Reynolds died last week. Did you ever see that really bad, fairly bad movie? As actually I thought a little bit underrated, but the Striptease with Demi Moore.
Oh,
she was and Burt Reynolds was the politician that the crush on her, and he was just the most weird human being, most weird pervert ever, and he was sneaking these strip clubs, and he was like the governor of Florida.
That's right.
Or a U.S. senator from Florida or something, and that's Mike Price.
No, I agree.
That's him. That is him. That's him. He's Burt Reynolds in Striptease. That's him in real life.
Because the movie's bad. The book was supposed to be good, but I'll say this. Okay, so my mom gave me that book. That's weird. She just said my mom.
I bought the book, but there's no pictures.
No, I was so disappointed. Anyway, I started reading the book, and I got to a line, and I've never forgotten this, and I remember the dumbest shit, and forget things like cousins. But so there was a line in there where like somebody had a gun, and they were aiming it at somebody, and the guy, the narrator, the writer was writing about it, and he said, and so having the utmost respect for Colt Industries, meaning like he respected the gun. And I said, that's it. That's the dumbest line I've ever read. I can't read any more of this book. I quit reading it. It's in the book. I'm going to find it.
That's in the book.
Hideous line. I mean, I was offended as somebody who
it sounds
reads
misplaced.
books.
That line sounds misplaced.
It was so stupid. And I was like, aren't you supposed to be talking about bosoms through this whole thing? So anyway.
There are 10 things shocking about that story. First of all, that movie was based on a novel.
Yeah, you didn't know that? Yeah.
I did not know that. And secondly, You read this novel?
No, I didn't read the whole. I told you I got to that line and quit. It was like chapter 1. No shit.
That was the second line. That's the second line of the book.
I mean, I got to the forward and then I was done. It may have been in the forward. I don't know.
Speaking of forward, that's what I did. I just fast forwarded to the Demi Moore on stage parts.
Oh, let me tell you what. Now that saved the movie. It saved the movie.
It did. It gave it some art. We needed some art, and that was it.
Some art, yeah. Huh. Bosoms tastefully done, or even better bosoms. But anyway, so
bosoms that have the respect of cult industries.
I would have liked it better if he said having the utmost respect for her bosoms. That would have been just perfect.
Or how about for the handgun pointed at him, or just that?
Yeah. The gun was pointed at him, and he was thinking, "Oh shit! Please don't shoot me." That's a much better line.
That's a line. That's a better line. It is.
That's you know what? I bet you right now, like if the author is listening to this podcast, going, "Holy shit, he's right. That is a much better line."
Has anyone ever tried to write a book on Twitter?
Oh, that'd be cool.
I think so. Like literally, you write a book, and it's 280 characters is obviously all you could tweet. You just write a book and you just tweet it out 280 characters at a time. It obviously take up so many Twitter pages, unbelievable, but I'm surprised nobody's tried that, or maybe somebody has.
Do that so bad.
Well, I don't want him to steal my idea. Stephen King, you owe me money if you do this.
Patent pending.
Oh yeah, back to Alabama football.
Back to Alabama football.
The crazy people that listen to this show would rather discuss that than Demi Moore's boobs. But let's back to the football. Back to speaking of Demi Moore, Tua.
Yes.
I think I had somebody on the phone tell me a while ago, and I'd give him a shout out. He doesn't listen to podcasts anyway, but I had an Alabama fan post on Cripsy Country Club tell me just a few minutes ago something that resonated with me. And such, he goes, as crazy as our fan base is about Tua, I don't think we understand how good he is. And I agree. We've never seen anything like it. Anything like it.
But I mean, first of all, this generation had. Now, maybe some of the older guard would say Stabler or Namath or whatever, but I kind of got to take their word for it because we have some grainy footage of some of their playing, but they could, even Namath, who had a very famous, sound that his passes made. I don't know that anybody could throw the any of them like Tua.
This is why Tua, we've never had anyone like Tua ever. And this is why, ready for this, it's so dumb to do this after 2 games, but I've seen with my own eyes how good the kid is. Here's why this is so important. We haven't had a first-round quarterback at Alabama since Richard Todd. He was the last one. He was actually, I just looked this up the other day. It blows me away. Richard Todd was the 6th pick in the draft. The 6th pick. So there was obviously a lot of physical ability there. Now, Richard Todd didn't have a great NFL career, but he was the 6th pick in the draft. Before that, the best Alabama quarterbacks that we could all name that were first-round picks and a big deal, Joe Namath and Kenny Stabler. First-round picks, right? No doubt, they're first-round picks.
Yeah.
How about this, Luke? Since World War II, Tua has a higher quarterback rating right now, and let's just forget the fact it's against 2 crappy teams and last year's a backup, but Tua is going to have a higher quarterback rating than Richard Todd did at Alabama, than Kenny Stabler did at Alabama, than Joe Namath did at Alabama. Jalen Hurts, half our fan base compares Jalen Hurts to the actor John Hurts. Half our fan base thinks Jalen Hurts is old man John Hurts, the British actor. Jalen Hurts has a higher quarterback rating at Alabama than Richard Todd did, than Kenny Stabler did, than Joe Namath did. So what I'm telling you guys is Tua is going to be a first-round pick like Todd, Namath, Stabler, but he will be better at Alabama than any of those guys were. And that's it's hard to comprehend. He's literally is proving himself to be the best that's ever played this position at Alabama. And I know that's blasphemy. Say, how can you compare him to Joe Namath? I'm saying first-round pick like Namath, but outperformed Joe Namath at Alabama. Now, we'll see what happens with the NFL. That changes everything. And one of the biggest problems I have when we compare players from different eras is when we say, oh, well, Brody Croyle's not as good as Richard Todd. Well, I'm more interested in how they performed at Alabama. What happens in the NFL with me is like irrelevant, but Tua is the best we've ever had. I think he's going to prove to be that good. And then once he's the best Alabama's ever produced, then where does he belong, ultimately on the list of great college quarterbacks of all time? He's going to have to win a Heisman, I think, to get in that conversation. But who the hell's ruling that out? I mean, he certainly can, but I know Nick Saban would beat me with a dead baby seal to be saying this stuff about Tua after he beat Louisville and Arkansas State. But I think we have seen it with our eyeballs. This isn't a bad competition. He beat the best team in the country down 13-0 on the biggest stage college football has a year ago. So it ain't just Louisville and Arkansas State. All Louisville and Arkansas State did is verify what we thought we saw last January.
Oh, I totally agree. And I mean, there's still unbelievably some, I guess, probably just Alabama haters who still aren't buying into the Tua Tagovailoa hype. And I don't know what else the sumbitch has to do. But I will say this. Okay, Jalen comes in, and first of all, it shocked me. It probably shocked you. And my thought on this is, okay, I'm pro Jalen. I don't dislike Jalen. I love him. I hope he sticks around and graduates, whatever. But we do need to get Tua in for a full game at some point. And that is one thing he has yet to do. He has not been in for a full game. Now, at Alabama, most of the time you don't get a full game because we are bludgeoning people, and you do, somebody comes out. But I would like to see him play a full half. I'm hoping beyond hope, not because I dislike Jalen, but because I think Tua needs the reps. Let's play 3.5 quarters with him against Ole Miss. I mean,
well, this is the first game, I think, where that's possible. Don't you agree that Nick, I'm not talking about running up the score, but Nick is more likely to score 60 against a conference opponent. I think that Nick is going to have no interest in setting scoring records against Arkansas State. We could have left Tua in last week to see if we could get to 80. That is just not something that Nick Saban does. Now, I do think against conference opponents, I don't think he's going to have such a problem with scoring a lot of points. And Ole Miss will be the worst SEC defense we see all year. That's why I think this weekend Alabama will score more points than they will in any game all year long. I believe that, and because it's a conference game, and we're going to leave Tua in longer than we would most other weeks. And Nick doesn't care so much about embarrassing the other team when they play in our league. We try to recruit A.J. Brown. We try to recruit Greg Little. I think we recruited DK Metcalf. So we're more likely, I think, to keep the accelerator down longer in this game and give you exactly what you're looking for. Now, that said, if we have 6 possessions in the first half and score touchdowns behind Tua on all 6, and Ole Miss doesn't even have 10 points, he's probably going to put in Jalen. But simply because it's just not in Nick's nature, I think, just to go out there and total video game somebody by racking up insane stats. But I'm with you. At some point, Tua's going to play a whole game. And I'm interested to see, Luke, what the rotation looks like when we're in a close game. Mm-hmm. If it's 10-7 in the second quarter, is Jalen still coming in? I know everyone's going to have their opinion, but I don't know the answer to that. I thought I knew shit last week, and last week proved that I didn't know. No matter who I talk to, no matter who tells me stuff, I didn't know. So I'm not going to start pretending to know now. I'm just saying that if it's 10-7 in the second quarter Saturday, is Jalen coming in? I don't know. I would guess it would depend on, why do we only have 10? Do we only have 10 because Tua's playing poorly? If that's the case, Jalen would certainly come in. Do we only have 10 because Tua keeps hitting everybody in the numbers and they take 3 steps and fumble the ball? If that's the case, then Tua is going to stay in. So I don't know. I do not know. But we are going to see Tua assert himself, I believe, as more of the full-time quarterback going forward, because the non-conference season is basically over. There's only one more non-conference game. I don't count Citadel at the end for all reasons we shouldn't count Citadel at the end. And with the new redshirt rule, that Citadel game is largely going to turn into a big freshman game anyway.
True. What is more unbelievable, that that Damian Harris hasn't scored a touchdown yet, or that our freaking kicker back-to-back hit goalpost on either side?
I don't know if I'd ever seen anything like it. I do. First of all, when you hit the upright, that does mean you barely missed the kick. I mean, he barely missed. It wasn't like he was doing my old duck hook off the tee box. I mean, he barely missed them. That's why they hit the uprights. But I have to think, based on that kid's success at Temple and his apparent success in winning the job at Alabama this fall in camp, I have to think it's stage fright, don't you? I mean, I don't think he sucks. I think it's stage fright. He has not gotten comfortable kicking in front of 100,000 fans and a million more watching on TV.
You're not comfortable kicking in front of that crowd for Arkansas State. It wasn't 100,000 people there, man. I mean,
no, but it's the stadium and it's big and it's Alabama.
But that's you practice in there.
Yeah, but there weren't people in the seats. I don't know. I just know this.
I would get it. If he were a high school guy that comes in, I'd get it. But there's no other explanation other than there are things in our physical world we can't explain. I don't give a shit how much science and math you put to this. You can't. I mean, Alabama is the most dominant, incredibly dominant college football program right now on a 10-year run, unlike history has ever seen. And if we had a kicker, we would have probably 3 to 5 more wins than we have right now, which would be enough to have probably 2 more national championships. And the fact that we have signed good kickers on paper, and we have turned them into, I mean, just Lieutenant Dan's. I mean, what is happening?
A weird thing to me, I don't know what the hell I'm looking at, but I know I saw a scrimmage in the spring, and Bulovas was very good. Austin Jones wasn't here in the spring. Bulovas was very good in the scrimmage. I saw probably 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 6. He was very good. And then on the A-Day, Bulovas was practically the A-Day MVP. And for all I remember, maybe he was the A-Day MVP. But Bulovas was very good in A-Day. And then I saw the scrimmage in the fall when Austin Jones was there. And in that particular scrimmage, if Austin Jones was better than Bulovas, at best they were tied that day. Bulovas was fine in that fall scrimmage. There was certainly nothing wrong with the way he kicked. So my point is, when Bulovas went out there to make kicks in this game and did well, I wasn't surprised at all. I mean, the Bulovas I've seen is pretty good. So as to what Austin Jones did in fall camp to win the job, I don't know. I just know with my eyes and the very limited amount of football I've seen, Bulovas is pretty good. So I'm going to assume going forward, Bulovas is going to be fairly good. Is he going to miss kicks? Well, hell yes, he's going to miss kicks. It's Alabama, and in college football, most everybody's kicker misses kicks here and there. So he's going to miss, but I think Bulovas might be pretty good, man.
Oh, he's going to miss some kicks.
He's going to miss some kicks. It is Alabama.
I mean, he may.
How about that Hoover kicker that's the #1 kicker in the country? He's committed to Alabama. He missed his first kick of the year at Hoover. It was only from 27 yards, and they got wide goalposts.
Just committing to us is like a foot STD. I mean, it's so bizarre. It doesn't even make sense.
He's got foot-mouth disease. What do they call it? Hand-foot-mouth disease?
Hand-foot-mouth disease, yeah.
Yep. Our kickers have that.
Well, except they forgot the mouth. I mean, it's just all and the hand. It's just
hand-feet. It's hand-feet disease.
It's just, and it's a severe case of the shit.
Well, we just have to get games to where it doesn't come down to that. The Georgia game came down to that, and somehow we overcame it. I mean, we overcame it. That's one thing we don't talk about enough. It did come down to a kick. We didn't make the kick, but we overcame it, which is hard to do. But we're pretty good.
That is, I wonder if that affects us next time when we're playing for a championship like that. And we got so conservative right there towards the end, which smart money, that's what you do. Because if you don't do that, and you do like Appalachian State did against Penn State, where they scored a touchdown, and Penn State came back to score it. If Appalachian State just falls down on the 1 yard line and kneels it a bunch of times, they win. But anyway,
Yep.
My point is that I wonder if Saban will be more aggressive next time. Instead of playing for the win via kick, if we'll try and go for a touchdown, because
obviously, the kicker's success to that point. I mean, it's fun for us to assume we'll never have a kicker that's good, but I actually think we will. For years, Florida State had that unbelievable run of what they were in the top 4 for 15, 18 consecutive years. They finished in the top 4. And for the first half of that run, the first half of it, they had a shitty kicker. That was the joke. That was the running thing, wide right,
yeah.
wide left. Florida State did not have a good kicker for the first half of that run, but then they ended up getting 2 or 3 unbelievable kickers in a row, including Sebastian Janikowski, who ended up being one of the great in NFL history. So maybe like Florida State, the back half of the Saban dynasty will have a great kicker, and maybe it starts with Will Richard from Hoover that'll get here next year.
Boy, a man can dream. I mean, I don't know how I can dislike them more. I mean, when they get here, maybe that's the thing is, a kicker gets here and everybody's so down on him to begin with. I mean, and a kicker's confidence can be so fragile, apparently.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. With everybody making these jokes, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But you're right, everybody can dream. For instance, one novelist sat down and said, I'm going to write striptease.
He said, I've got this line about Colt 45s that's unbelievable.
I'm going to write a movie about boobs, but I'm not going to show boobs to anyone. I'm just going to describe them in 300 pages.
That works for me. I mean, so are you going to the game?
I am not going to the game. I've never been to a game at Oxford.
Oh, it's fun. I'm going.
You're going?
Yeah.
Excellent. Now watch out. They'll throw the liquor bottles there.
They did a few times. When was that? Was that 93 when they started throwing the shit out of them?
I think it was around that time. It was a game right in there because they really thought they had us. They really thought they had us beat. I met a guy the other night that played on those Ole Miss teams.
Who?
Good dude. I mean, it was just a lesser known defensive back. He did play in the games. His son plays there now. That's what we started talking about him.
I think it was 93. That was the year we were there, and
that was the David Palmer game.
The David Palmer game, yeah.
I was in law school then.
Yeah, he had a great game. Yeah, I was in regular school then.
I remember that Ole Miss fans. I remember reading the Jackson Clarion Ledger the next day because I was in law school then, and I remember the Jackson Clarion Ledger. I wish I would have saved it. They could not have been more impressed with David Palmer. If that newspaper could have given out a Heisman the next day, Palmer would have had it shipped to. They could, and in their minds, it's like, oh, we were better than Alabama, but they had David Palmer.
What did he finish third in the Heisman voting?
He did finish third. Mm-hmm.
There's a kid now at Jackson Olin named what's his name? AJ.
It's Tony. AJ Tony.
That's it. And John Garcia's been raving about it, and I watched his highlights today, and I'll tell you what, he's not David Palmer, but shit, his highlights were kick ass. Now he's not even ranked in some circles, but apparently Alabama's picking up their interest. Will they sign him? I mean, I doubt it, but
he's a 19 kid, right? He's a senior.
Yeah. He's just returning kicks left and right. He's a short little something like Palmer was, but he's just so elusive. And
hey, one thing I tell people, they don't believe this because it was such a different time back then, but David Palmer was sort of not a big deal going into his senior. It was his senior year, just like what this Tony kid is doing. It was a senior year that Palmer blossomed into what he became. He was not back then. We had so few rankings. It was way before the recruiting industry. And one of the things people look forward to every year was the Tuscaloosa News Sweet 16 which back then was done by Cecil.
That's right.
And David Palmer, Cecil did a preseason one that would come out a week before the college season started in their big issue. It would come out then, and David Palmer was not in the Sweet 16 in the preseason, wasn't even top 16. Then post year, he was number 1.
Yeah.
Ahead of other kids. That was a great year in Alabama. He was number 1 ahead of multiple kids who had offers from everybody in the country. Palmer was still
Damian Jeffries was also a big deal. And then Robert Davis, I think, was that year.
It was the next year.
That was the next year? Okay.
It was Damian Jeffries. There was a linebacker named Damon Southward who signed with Michigan.
Yeah.
There was a linebacker named Harris, the Harris kid that signed
with Nebraska.
With Alabama. With Nebraska. That's it. The kid that signed with Nebraska from Jess Lanier. A lot of good guys signed with Alabama that year. Elvert Brown from Montgomery. Shannon Brown was in that class from Stanhope Elmore. Yep. Willie Gaston from Mobile. Great defensive back. That 91 class was great.
That beat Lamar Thomas before Teague caught up to him.
That is exactly right. 22 Willie Gaston and Andre Royal.
Andre Royal, yeah, he was good, man.
He was in that 91 class from Tuscaloosa County High School. So
he was a dude. He was kind of Rollo McClain before Rollo McClain.
He was in many ways. He didn't, I think, ever live up to on the field, what he was projected to be. But
he was just sort of a badass. He was a badass.
Yeah. He was, I guess we call that player, we call him a thumper now.
Was Daryl Blackburn in that class? I know he ended up giving up football. Was he in that class?
As a matter of fact, I have it at my fingertips. Our 1991 class was David Palmer, Damian Jeffries, Tony Johnson, John Stevenson, Willie Gaston, Will Brown, Tommy Johnson, Curtis Brown, Rory Seagrass, Brian Thornton, John Copeland from junior college, Sam Shade, Elvert Brown, Shannon Brown, Joey Harville, Brian Bergdorf, Brent Clark, Andre Royal, Van Baden, Sherman Williams.
Oh, wow.
Kareem McNeil, Tim Barnett, and Jeff Torrance. Those were the members of our 1991 class that until Nick Saban came along, it was the best class in history. And even to this date, on my nerdy little formula I use that I stand by to this day, it's actually pretty accurate and it works well. 44% of that class became an all-conference player or played in the NFL, and not even a Saban class has topped that number yet.
Wow.
They've matched it. The 08 and the 09 Saban classes match it, but have yet to top it.
That's crazy. Mm-hmm. That was a hell of a class, man. I mean, you put Palmer in that class, that's tough to beat. Any class with David Palmer is a badass class to me.
Palmer, Copeland.
Oh, that's sick. All right. Well, I got to run, Jimmy, but
let's do
prediction.
56-24.
God, all right. I'm going to go 62-27 circa 1989. Another game I was there for. That was
the score. Yeah, I was there too. You're stealing the 89 score. I love it.
And that was we just down 21-0. I was thinking, how the hell can I get out of this dump? And
we almost left. We almost left. And I was a student then. I almost left.
And that game wasn't on TV, though, if I remember right.
I doubt it.
This was pre all the games being on TV.
A lot of games were on TV, but this game was not TV, and it was hot, and it was in the middle of the day. I swear it must have kicked off at noon.
Yeah.
If it was on TV, it was that 11:30 game. Was it an 11:30 Jefferson Pilot type game?
It wasn't. I swear, Jimmy, I don't think it was on TV.
Yeah, I think you might be right. But down 21-0, we scored 62 unanswered points. 62 unanswered points. And led 62-21 after being down 21-0.
It's the only time that Cliff Ingles sweater looked good.
That was really Gary had played pretty well the weeks leading up to it, but that was really the Gary Hollingsworth coming out party, and he would eventually be the SEC Player of the Year, and put up a lot of his numbers that day against Ole Miss in Veterans Stadium in Jackson, Mississippi. We did not play that game in Oxford.
I know
that was in Jackson.
Some amazing shit right there. All right. So I say 60.
I'll let you get back to your striptease book. Let me know how it ends.
That's exactly. It ends very well, Jimmy. Every striptease does. They all have a happy ending. All right. Roll Tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.
See you, buddy.
All right. See you.